The story of SMCC started several years ago at Calvary Temple Assembly of God in San Antonio, Texas. It was a Missions Sunday, and every year our church had Missions Emphasis Month. And so Matt and I knew this was coming, and we had been praying all month long about what God would have us to give to our missions program every month. And we would pray together, we would pray apart, and we just didn't feel like we had really heard anything from God. And we really wanted to hear from Him, because every year we just felt like God had asked us to increase our missions giving. And so, we would pray and we'd ask each other, have you heard anything? No, have you? And all month long this went on. And it came to the Mission Sunday, and a missionary got up and spoke, and he finished. They passed out the faith promise cards, which is what we wrote our pledges on, what we were going to give every month that year. And we bowed our heads, and I just said, God, now would be a great time for you to tell me what to put on this card. And immediately I felt like God just said, no amount has seemed like enough, because now I want you to go. And I admit I was a little nervous. I didn't want to lean over and tell that to Matt. And so I asked God, I said, can you tell that to Matt? And like a minute later, Matt leaned over and said, hey, I think God just called us to the mission field. And so God told us both at the same time, but separately, and it was just a great confirmation that this was what God wanted us to do.
So after God had called Stacy and I to world missions, we gained approval through our district and through the national office and began itineration. Itineration is going from church to church and sharing our heart and sharing our vision to reach the military community in Stuttgart, and gaining that support, that financial support and that prayerful support. And we did gain that in about 18 months. We had raised our complete budget and were approved to move to Germany to start the ministry of reaching the military community there in Stuttgart. After finishing our itineration and moving to Germany, God brought 5 great families into Stacy and I's lives. The first family we met in Germany was Phil and Joy Procaccio. After meeting them, we met Bill and Christina Coffey. Then we met Tom Griffin, and after Tom, we met Marshall and Brandy Plotner. And the last family to kind of come into the 5-family fold was Brandon and Lisa Hyman. And without a doubt, God was really orchestrating these meetings and these relationships, because these 5 families would eventually help us launch SMCC.
Well, I was looking for a church. I was really eager to find a good place, and I was searching the internet, and I found an old website. I think it was Matt and Stacy's itineration page, and it was like 4 months out of date, and it said basically that they were already here in Germany. So I just called the number that was on the site, and Matt answered, and I told him that I was looking for a Spirit-filled church, and he told me, well, you may have found the place you're looking for, and let's get together and talk. And so we did.
We first learned about SMCC through Facebook. One day I was looking through Facebook and I saw that SMCC had started up a Bible study.
Brandy was stuck at work for the first 2 or 3 weeks, so she sent me as a spy to go check it out, make sure it was okay, and then we could attend together.
We were signing up to go to a retreat. We just showed up to Germany, and in her connection, she contacted someone to ask for the retreat, and they came back and said, yeah, some missionaries are coming out in about 6 months to a year, and kind of put us in touch, and we've been following along ever since.
After meeting these families and getting to know them better, it became obvious that God had brought all of us together, and they each had unique abilities to really help us launch the church.
The first time, my first impression was a little weirded out. I thought that Matt was quite stalkerish, and I just couldn't help believe he had never met me before, and he knew that we were Brandon and Lisa Hyman, and
he chased us down in the parking lot of the exchange.
Well, we were really excited. The first time we met Matt and Stacy was actually through Facebook and email, and as we talked, the vision to have a church focus on U.S. service members was right down. Is what we were praying for.
Yes, and I can say that after the first meeting, you could actually feel the passion that Matt and Stacy had. So that was exactly what we were looking for.
Right.
When we first came to SMCC, it was a Bible study. We were looking for a Bible study to be a part of that was smart and engaging and great conversation about the Bible. I was skeptical at first. However, after I'd come a couple times, I found that I really enjoyed it and was excited about bringing our family.
When I finally was able to join everybody, I was also really excited about how everybody was willing to share and be open about the Bible, and I felt really at home with the group of people that were doing the Bible study.
Well, just talking with Matt and Stacy and sensing that the Lord was moving, there was no way that I was not going to be a part of what God was doing. I recognized it right away, and I just couldn't help myself. I knew this is the place that God had for me.
Well, I was excited from the very beginning just to hear that there was going to be Assemblies of God missionaries coming to the Stuttgart area, because it was really a needed thing to have a Spirit-filled church in the area. So definitely wanted to get that up and get it going, do whatever I could to help out, and I think it's been great. So,
I was probably a little bit more skeptical, and part of that's just because of what I was doing, where I was at. We have a lot of things going on within the community, very busy lifestyle from the standpoint of job demands, things like that. And I just saw it as, there's going to be a lot of work. And basically what happened is when we showed up, got together, we're like, this is it. It clicks, and we're like, no, we need to get behind this and support it. And it's been great ever since.
So after meeting the families, we faced some real challenges in launching a church. For one, we didn't even have a place to meet. But God worked all that out, along with all the other challenges we faced. And eventually, on November 4th, we launched SMCC.
Well, I thought that the biggest challenge we would face is going against a paradigm that church is in the morning on Sunday morning. So having church on Sunday night, I thought, would be a little difficult to get people to come out. And we were totally pleasantly surprised that we had such an awesome turnout for a Sunday night service.
I thought the church was going to succeed, but one of the challenges that I identified maybe early on was, since we don't meet on a base, since we meet at a German church, and it's a German named church, I thought perhaps people would be afraid that they were going to a German-speaking church or to a translated church instead of just a purely American, English-speaking home church.
Well, the church actually kind of went up and running pretty quickly in terms of just the practical applications, but I still thought that the biggest thing would be, how do we get the word out, since the pastors don't have access to get on base and different things like that. It was more figuring out, how do we get the word out to people to let them know that we're here and what we're doing, and how do we draw attention to the church.
So even with all of these challenges that we faced, it was just amazing to see that God was with us in every step of the way, and the launch was a great success.
One of the things that really surprised me in the first year was how the congregation came together and with just the willingness to give, and to give freely to all of the mission teams that have come to visit us and share their stories with us. It's just very, very uplifting to see how everyone is so willing to give.
And I was just surprised to see that we're packing out the church. I mean, people are coming and we're adding chairs, and it's just amazing.
The biggest surprise to me has been a pleasant surprise, and it's that the church has grown rapidly in number. People have continued to come, and it still has the feel of family, and it still has the feel of home. The relationships aren't distant and cold. They're very quickly tight-knit and close relationships.
Well, what really surprised me is that the first year has gone by so quickly. I just can't believe that we've already done a year of this. It's like we just got started, and I'm so amazed at the growth, not just in numbers, but people's walk with the Lord. It's incredible what God is doing. I'm so pleased and so surprised, even though I guess I shouldn't be, but I am.
I'd have to say the greatest surprise for me as the pastor of SMCC was the quality of men God was bringing into our church. While I'm certainly grateful for the great women God has brought too, it's pretty rare to have such great men, and so many of them, out in the front leading the church. And so, as a pastor, that was the biggest surprise that I had.
One thing that amazed me as we launched SMCC was just everyone's willingness to get in and get their hands dirty. Everyone on the launch team just started working so hard as we launched SMCC, and You know, they did things that maybe weren't necessarily their favorite thing to do, but they knew they needed to be done, and they knew that people would come in and eventually be able to fill those roles. But when we first started, those first couple of months, it was just awesome to see how everyone came together and worked hard and got everything done that needed to be done.
I think SMCC and our involvement here has really helped our family to become closer as a team, you know, focused on God together. And I just really think that we've become more of a close-knit family because of SMCC.
Absolutely. I think the messages at SMCC is giving the opportunity for a lot of good discussions as a family, which has been great because, you know, all of the kids come and we talk about these things. And also, if we weren't going towards God, I think we naturally, or at least I naturally, would have been going away from God, which would have affected the family negatively. So just the association has been great for the whole family.
I think it's allowed us to really just become more actively involved in a church again. When we first came here, the church to be really just attended, we didn't feel like there was a place for us to work or you know, groups to participate in the way we had been used to in the past. So SMCC has allowed us to, again, just to get in there, get active, be part, to do something. And that's been really neat. And I think that has impacted the whole family in a good way.
I think the 11 years here, being involved in ministry, partly with the chapel and other churches, but being part of SMCC has really brought my focus back to where God has called me to, His ministry.
So it's hard to believe that we've come up on our first year as a church. And as far as what the future holds for SMCC, we're just going to continue like we began. We're going to follow the Lord. We're going to pray. We're going to seek His face. And wherever He leads, we'll follow. That's the future of SMCC.